YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Charity Unscripted. And today, I will be talking about my first time directing. I'll be talking about my experience, the different steps I went through that I kind of prep my cast for, and like the ups and downs, trials and tribulations of my first time directing. And I like when I have like opinions about something, I like to call them my closing remarks. That's what I like to call them. So I will be saying my closing remarks when it comes to my first time directing. It being first time, I will be saying my first time directing a theater scene, not like a film scene, but experience. That's all that counts. And my closing remarks for it. So the very first thing I had to do was find a script. So I found out about districts last year, but last year it was like I was going to do it, but it was like I was like a day late. I was like a day or two late in signing up and saying that I actually wanted to do it because, I wanted to make sure this was 100% something I wanted to do, 100% something that I wouldn't put time aside for. And last year I was the editor-in-chief of the yearbook, so it was a lot of my time was already being taken up by a lot of things, so I wouldn't really sit there and figure out if this is something I really wanted to do, especially with it being a theater competition and not like a film competition. So I was like, I want to do it, and my past theater teacher was like, it's too late, you missed it by like a few days. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do it next year. So senior this year I decided to do it. So I knew I needed to find the script, and I was like, I don't want to do anything like dramatic and Shakespeare or like that kind of thing, because I don't really like know too much about that. And this is a high school competition, so I would have to really sit down and study being a dramatic director. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna have to do that in the future, but it was like that's something you have to like study. That's like you're teaching someone, you're directing somebody, and it's a high school theater competition. I would be asking high school actors to do something. So I was like, I want to do something fun, like kind of goofy, silly for my first scene. So in class, it was like probably like a week I spent like looking online, and it had to be a certain rules about what scenes and publishing companies you could take scripts from. And we think it was because of the whole like the writer's strike and the acting strike, because that's what was happening at this time period. So we were just like, okay, we had to find these ones. So one site I looked on was Play Scripts, and before I 100% looked on Play Scripts, I was just looking up scenes that were on the red and green list, which was like what was on the green list, the shows we could do, because I didn't want to get disqualified by using something that wasn't allowed. So there was originally going to be a scene between these two. It was two couples, and they were doing IVF, but the wrong embryo got put in the wrong person, but both couples wanted to keep the baby. So like the person that had the wrong child was like, we want this child, but the people who was like, that's our DNA, we still want our baby back. So that was the scene, and it was marketed as a comedy. So I paid to get the script, and when I got it, I was like, oh my god, this is boring. And it was bad. Like, it was not funny at all. It was like really slow, really bad, really slow, really boring. And I was just like, this ain't it. We're not doing this one. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a new script. So I was on Play Scripts one evening. I was sitting around, and I found this scene, just looking at scenes, and I started reading it, and it was funny. So I was laughing at the different lines, and my mom was like, what is so funny? And I was like, let me read it to you. So I was like, this is a scene about God getting a divorce from the human race. And she was like, what? And I was like, yes. So we end up reading it out loud, and she starts dying laughing too. And then my sister comes out, and she's like, what are y'all laughing at? Because I can hear y'all laughing from the room. So we start reading it again so she can hear it, and she like, this is good. I'm like, before I even read it to my family, during those first like 10 lines, I was like, this is it. So that was the script. I told my my friend Whitney, who was the person who already said, no matter what the scene is, I want to be a part of your scene. So I told my friend Whitney, y'all know who Whitney is, she been in the videos, and I was like, this is it. She was like, okay. So she read it and she was like, oh, this is good. So the funny thing about this script and picking the script was that people in class were hearing that I was doing this scene, or they were hearing the lines and they're like, what? And Whitney would be like, this is charity scene, this charity scene. So everybody would be laughing about this scene. And I'm just like, oh my God, like, y'all really mess with me. Cause y'all know in the last video, I was like, I'm not a theater kid, I'm theater adjacent. So people was like, oh, okay, Charity doing her big one a little bit. So I was like, okay, like, brr. So I was like, now I gotta figure out my cast. Once I had the script, I bought the script, and I was getting it together. So I got it approved by Miss Hawkins, my theater teacher, and then I had to find my cast. So I originally had two people set aside. So it was a cast of 4 people, and I knew I didn't want to go above like 5 because this is my first time directing. I want to do no 20-person scene, and I knew that rehearsal schedules were going to be difficult, so if we kept it small, it would be easier to rehearse. But I already had 2 people. I needed a judge, a god, a human race, and a bailiff. So I already had Whitney as human race, and another classmate, Andrea, was the judge, and I knew I wanted her to be the judge because she's a good actor. I knew Whitney was good at what the human race does in the scene, so I was like, okay, those are my 2 already, so I needed 2 guys. So I was like, okay, I don't talk to anyone in the class and I don't know any guys. So I was like, I need to find somebody. So I asked somebody else I knew in theater from a different class, and they were like, I have too much on my plate. And I'm like, oh, now I gotta talk to people like I don't actually talk to for real. So Israel ended up being my guy, and then Miss Hawkins was like, there's this guy who wants to do a scene, but he just wants to like start doing a scene, and it's Jeremy from band. And I'm like, that's like, he doesn't have a last name. She's like, all I know is that it's Jeremy from band. So now I'm like, nah, I gotta find Jeremy from band. And Jeremy found me before I could find him, because everything's in a performing arts building, so band, chorus, theater is all in the same building. So he found me before I could find him, and he was like, hi, Jeremy. And I was like, oh yeah, bailiff, yeah. And so Israel became my guy, and that was my core 4 cast. That's how I found out my cast. So then rehearsals, like, they were like, before this is my first time doing dishes, this is my first time directing anything. So before we even started the district's prep, I already felt behind, because I'm like, I don't know what this bit, like what I need to do, what I need to prepare for. So they're like, when is rehearsals? Or like, when do you want us to be all booked? I'm like, oh, book, like rehearsals? I gotta figure out like the calendar. I gotta look at my calendar, look at y'all calendar. So we made a group chat about when like the best time would be, because they have other things that they're doing, like the main 1 acts, and they're doing like their own IEs and thespies, because mine was a separate thespy. Like if we would have gotten like a superior with the states with this scene, they would have had to, they wouldn't get a superior. It would only be in my name because it's my student directed. So they wouldn't be a part of that. Like they wouldn't be a part of that, but they would. So I was like, I gotta find people that really want to volunteer and people that actually want to spend time working on the scene. That's why I have my core 4. So we were rehearsing, and we had like 3 or 4 after school rehearsals, but we had like a week and a half of in-class rehearsals every day working on our scene. With each rehearsal it got better, but one thing that set rehearsals back are these cuts. So originally I was told that the scene needed to be under 10 minutes because my time slot is 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, boom. I found a script that's under 10 minutes. It said it's like from 7 to 10 minutes. And because majority of the scene is like bickering, because they're like becoming like, they're a married couple that has problems, they're arguing, they want to get a divorce. It was mainly bickering, and you know when you bicker, you're going back and forth, which is fast. So I was like, oh yeah, I definitely can do 7 minutes. So that's 7 minutes for my cast, and that's 3 minutes for the judges. But then I look on the district's website, and it says it needs to be, I think it says it needs to be under 5 minutes. So, or No. What happened first, so it was, I needed to be under 10 minutes. So I found a script that was 7 minutes. Then I was like, yes. I was told it needed to be under 5 minutes. So then I cut it, but then when we performed it, they told me that it was 60 seconds over. So then I had to cut more so that it was under 5 minutes, actually under 5 minutes. Because I thought we cut out like 2.5 pages of the scene, and the scene, it's a scene, so it's not like it's a full play. It was already like 10 pages. It probably was like 10 pages, and we had cut it 2.5 pages out of it. Then I had to cut another page out of the scene before it was officially under 5 minutes. And that like affected my actors because they had spent all this time learning the lines, now learning that they have to cut them. And the problem with making sure it was under those 60 seconds from 6 minutes to 5 minutes was because I had to do those cuts the day before our turn was to go on. So in the last districts video, in the official districts video, when I'm talking with Miss Hawkins, that meeting was so that she could approve the cuttings last minute the day before our scene. So we're like, my scene's tomorrow, it is tomorrow. And we just cut a bunch of lines that day, the day before. So on the bus we were rehearsing before, because we were first thing in the morning. That was another thing. We were first thing in the morning. So cutting that night before, the night before, rehearsing on the bus, rehearsing before our time slot, we're the first time slot. Very first group, very first session, very first set time. So, but we got there and they did amazing. Like the judges, all the judges were laughing, and I've talked about this in the last video, how they all were laughing, they all enjoyed it, but I didn't get like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot a part. So when we got there, they did great, but before we started, I talked about this in the last video, how they were like, you had to stay between 8 minutes. And it was just like, oh my God, that means I didn't have to cut those 2.5 pages. I would have had to do like minimal cutting, like literally cutting out like 2, 3, 4 lines, and we would have been fine. But when I talked to Ms. Hawkins about it afterwards, she was like, I think that timekeeper was just incorrect because it's like, the official website says 5 minutes. So I wasn't like too hurt about that. It's just the fact that it happened. So everyone did great. All the judges were laughing. So I still had a bunch of time in my time slot, but they never told me anything. So I was just like, okay, I guess I'll have my second session. They'll talk to me, but they never talked to me because the second session wasn't a thing anymore, and that wasn't told to us until that day. So I felt like the experience itself with becoming a director and directing and prepping and helping my cast out was like, it was perfect. It made me, my mom asked me like, is this, doing it now, is this something you still want to pursue? And I was like, yes, 100%. I love doing it. I love directing. I love reading the script and writing notes in the script. Like if I could get my script right now, let me get my script right now. This is my script. They all had their own scripts and I had mine. And if you look on these pages, it's writing on each and every page on how I wanted them to say the lines, on how I wanted them to act, highlighting, props list, how there's words on every page on how I wanted them to act in each one. And it just, this was my first time directing something, and that will always, this thing and that cast will always be my first people I direct, the first thing I ever directed. So one thing I did do on the bus with my cast was the morning on the way to districts, my mom got me breakfast because it was a Saturday. So there wasn't like I was gonna eat breakfast at school. So my mom got me breakfast and we stopped by Walgreens and I got them these ring pops because since it's about marriage, I was just like a ring marriage, a connection. And I told them, I gave them a sweet message about how I was happy that they did this and the understanding that this is hard, that we have to relearn a scene in like an hour and a half before we go on. So that was one thing I did do just to show them that how happy, impressed and proud, Jesus, showing them how happy, impressed and proud I was that they stuck it out for me. They was holding me down for this scene. So The districts, my closing remarks on districts is I wish there's better communication, not just to me, but to my theater teacher, so she could communicate to me, and that we wouldn't have to struggle. And maybe that they had better communication on the website. Maybe if the website was better, things would have been better, you know? So, those are my closing remarks on districts. I'm still happy I had the experience. I'm still happy I was able to go to districts and soak up a bunch of theater, because I think that is a great foundation in going into film, because theater extended into film. Film wouldn't be a thing without theater. So I do think it's a great foundation. And I'm happy I got the opportunity to go. But this past week, coming back from break, that's probably, so that would have been like 2 weeks. Oh yeah, a full 2 weeks after districts happened, I got these. And these are my comments. These are my comments from the judges. So I never got them face to face, but I did learn that they could opt to not give you comments face to face. They could just write them and print them out like this. And I got my official scores. So as we know, I got an excellent on it, which is right under the highest score, a superior. And I got 2 excellence and 1 superior, so it like evened out into being an excellent. But I got the like raw scores and I got their comments, and I will say that on here. So Judge 1 gave me an overall excellent. My blocking was a good, which is a 2. My concept was a 2, which is a good. My creativity was a good, which is a 2. And my presentation and my prompt book was a 4. So I had this big binder that had all of my, I had to put so much stuff in that binder. It was like a thespian statement. It was like thematic statement. It was character statements, character like analysis. That was like all in one. It was the whole script with the blocking on there. And there was like one last thing that I can't remember. It was like a bunch of like concept questions. So that was all in this big binder. So that got a superior. So the one thing I found interesting about this judge was they gave me goods, which is like farther down the scale, and they gave me 2 superiors, which evened out into an excellent. But I'm just like, dang, I couldn't get like 3 excellents and like 2 superiors. Y'all give me some goods, like, okay. But I'm not gonna speak too much on the judges because you never know who's gonna see this. But the way I'll like input, I'll like insert what the setting was, like the staging of the scene. But he said, consider separating God and his ex on opposite sides of the stage for space, because space equals tension. And it allows the audience to switch their line of vision from stage left to stage right, thus creating a more engaging viewing experience. He gave me an excellent pace and energy, which is interesting because he gave me goods beforehand. This scene is well timed. However, I would encourage more movement and add more levels here and there to create dimension in the scene. So I was like, okay, like I liked his comments more than I liked his rating, obviously, but they still don't kind of make sense to the score, you know, because it's like, it's a bunch of compliments, but it's like, you're not matching the same energy. You know, like stand on business a little bit, you know? So that was Judge 1. Judge 2 gave me an excellent. This was the second judge who gave me the excellent. Judge 2 gave me blocking, I got a 3, excellent. Concept, I got a 3, excellent. Creativity, I got a 3, excellent. My presentation and prompt book was superiors. They both got 2 superiors on that. Overall great scene. Her comments were overall great scene, really funny moments, staging. There are missed opportunities between the human and God, and she would want them to be like more separated, so it would give the scene like more build. At times she wanted my actors to enunciate more, and I was like, okay, it was early in the morning, it was lit, you know, I understand that. So there was that. She said that my build, like there's like an arc in the scene, like it's like it builds up to something, and she said the intensity was not there. And I thought that was so interesting, because when God turns to the human race and says go to hell after they had like another bickering session, everybody in the room said Like everybody was shocked. So that's why I was like, what do you mean there was no intensity, there was no build? Everybody was shocked in the bike. And this is the funny thing about this, because I knew the scene inside and out. When I knew that scene was coming up, I stopped looking at my actors and I looked at the people in the room, specifically the judges. And I think this judge literally grabbed her pearls. Like, I think she clutched her chest and clutched her pearls. Because I was just like, that is so interesting. Because y'all, I have a good memory. I ain't gonna lie. I have a good memory. So just the fact that I think that she clutched her pearls when this scene happened, I'm just like, okay, girl, no intensity. Okay. So then she said, make sure your judges have more emotional connection. And I was like, okay. Because it's a comedic scene. She said, yes, it's a comedic scene, but there are sweet turner moments that weren't developed. It was at the very end of the scene. So I was just like, okay, we didn't work on the very end that much. I told them that this is an emotional part. You got to do better. So, and then, her last message is, I wish you all well in the future. So hopefully when my YouTube get popping and my movies get popping, hopefully she's seeing, I'm gonna invite her. I'm gonna find her, I'm gonna find her like Facebook or something and be like, girl, you should come. Cause you remember when you rated my scene back in 2023? Yeah, bro. You should come watch my new movie. So I thought that was interesting. At least she gave like a compliment. Like the first guy, he was a little, I don't know. He gave good comments, but it didn't make sense because his ratings didn't match his comments. So that's why I'm kind of just like, okay. But this is the last guy. If you watch the last video, the last district's video, this is the judge that my mom was sitting next to trying to read his comments. He loved it. He's the one that gave me the superior. I could tell because he was laughing the whole time. He gave my blocking superior. He gave my concept an excellent. He gave my creativity a superior. My presentation a superior. And my prompt book a superior. Comments, it is an attention grabbing first line. The first line is order in the court. But Jeremy delivered it amazing. The first line is the most important to set the tone of the scene. He said it was good tension building. It was good tension building. Y'all see that? And how the other judges was tripping a little bit. So he said good tension building. Actors need to know their basic motivations. Would love to see more connection between the married couple. Sometimes connection. Oh, he was talking about connection. He said the pacing was great and the actors picked up on cues quickly. And he just said like, well done at the end. So I was happy that I was so happy that I finally got these documents, y'all, because if I didn't get these, I really would have just been sitting in the dark like, dang. And then I would have never known that I got goods and then 2 superiors, which even out to excellent. That math don't even math. Because if she gave 3 excellents and 2 superiors and that equal to excellent, and he gave me 3 goods and a superior and that equal to excellent, that math don't math through it. It don't.
That doesn't make no sense. My man.
I would have never known this. And this is a breakdown of their scoring, and that's what I wanted. I'm still happy that I'm still happy and I'm proud of myself. I mean, everybody wants a superior, like everybody wants to win, or everyone wants to get the best score, but I'm still proud that I was able to get an excellent, because if I would have got a good, I probably would have been so sad, y'all. I would have been so sad. I was sad that I got an excellent, and I wasn't even sad that I got an excellent, okay? I think I was sad because I didn't know why I got the excellent, but if I would have got a good, I would have been so sad because we didn't deserve a good. In my opinion, I feel like we didn't deserve an excellent. But one thing my dad told me was, since you guys went first, you guys set the scale, so you can't really just give a superior to the very first person. I mean you can, but you have to see the other scenes. You don't know like if the other scenes are going to be better than this or if the other scenes are going to be way worse than this. So maybe if the other scenes were bad, they would have gave us a superior. But if the other scenes were great, maybe we would have still got an excellent, but you wouldn't know that because we went first. And I was like, Daddy, you know you're right about that. You might be hitting on something with that. So I took all of that in consideration, and it's like, it makes you, it's like, dang, maybe I should have did it last year, so maybe I would have some experience in getting that superior this year. But this was my first and last time doing districts. So I was like, at least I got the experience. I got the I got the experience. I got the, what is the other word I'm looking for? It's because I'm trying to use experience in two different ways. I got the experience, like I got to experience districts, and I got the experience as in I got to experience directing and seeing if I actually want to do that. Because this whole time I've been saying, oh, I want to be a director, oh, I want to be a director, but I've never directed anything outside of my YouTube and my Instagram and my mama's YouTube and her Instagram. So it's been more creative directing than like directing. But I think that I really could do this, y'all. And that's why I love doing this YouTube channel, because I get to look back and see the changes in my YouTube videos, and then in like a year or so, because I've only been doing YouTube for 4 months. Y'all, I've only been doing YouTube for 4 months. But in like another year or another 2 years, I can look back and see the growth. So this is the first step in my journey in becoming a movie film director. And I think we're starting off pretty well. What y'all think? I think I'm doing pretty well. So that's the end of this YouTube video. My districts recapping districts, my first time directing recap. So let's stay tuned for this journey. Peace out.